Okay, right. Characteristics of a good program, an ideal program, and then approach to problem solving. Okay, so in that, so we have discussed first of all top-down design. Okay, so the next is stepwise refinement, and the third one is bottom-top design. Right now, today, so we will discuss programming techniques. Okay, the fourth one is programming techniques. Programming techniques. Okay, so in that we have unstructured programming. Unstructured programming. What do you mean by unstructured programming? No. It doesn't have any meaning. No. Okay, and then so it will be used for practice purpose. Okay, so you don't know. So if anybody knows C++, anybody knows here? Okay, so from your part also, right? Okay, so everyone, you know that C++. Okay, so I'm going to say also you do one coding for one problem, one program. You do it in C++. Okay, so it should not have any single errors. Can you do it?
No, sir.
No. So you will do it as a practice first. Okay, so you will do first practice programs, practice codings. Okay, so you will make a mistakes over there. Okay, you will rectify that. After that, so you will build a good program, an ideal universal program. Okay, so this stage of learning programming is known as unstructured programming. You are at the unstructured programming techniques. It's a programming technique, so you are in learning stage. So you are not thorough in coding. Is that clear? Okay, so just write on this. Okay, during a learning stage, by writing small and simple programs, without planning, known as unstructured programming. Okay, which leads to unstructured programming. Okay, so you don't have any targets. Okay, and so you don't have any planning to do the program. So only it is used for practice purpose. Okay, so such programming will be known as so unstructured programming. Okay, right? Okay, you just write it down this. Okay, next procedural programming. Procedural programming. So in this programming technique only, the next one, B. Procedural programming. So I'll say the best example for procedural programming is C, Pascal, Algol. These are all the high-level languages. Okay, so we will use it in the third generation computers. Okay, so let me consider this as a main program. Okay, next it leads to directly right like this. Procedure 1, procedure 2, procedure 3. Next. Okay, so here 4, 5, 6 lines. Okay, you just write down it. Okay, these are all work on the procedures, and this main program has got the complete control over the procedures. Okay, right? So you can write any number of procedures. Okay, procedure 1, 2, 3, n number of procedures, and total control. So whatever the procedure you write, so it should go back to the main program. It is procedural oriented programming technique. Okay, so and the C and Pascal are the best example. C and Pascal. Okay, whatever the procedures you will write here, so it will go back to the one single main program.
Completed, sir.
Right?
1 minute, sir. I'm done.
Yeah. You are not in the hurry, so still when the exams will conducted, so still not yet decided, so you go slowly. No issue with that. Okay, so whatever the procedure you write, so it should go back to the main program. So it should be solved in the single program. The entire control of these procedures will be carried out by the main program. Centralized control. Okay.
Yes.
So what you have written in the last 3 boxes?
This one, 4,
Yes,
5,
sir.
6. You can write n number of
Okay, sir.
procedures. Okay. This is the main program. Okay, Apana?
Yes, sir.
Right. This method allows programmer nothing but V to combine the returning sequence of procedures at single place. At single place. Single place is nothing but main program. Okay, so wherever you go, you need to get back to the main program. A procedure call is used to invoke the procedure. Invoke the procedure. After the sequence is processed, the flow of control proceeds right after the position where procedure call was made. Okay, so next. Procedures are sub-procedures programs. Okay, so I'll write here. Can be written as more easily and error free. Right, the programming techniques. So first one is procedural programming. Whatever the procedures we write, so we should get back to the main program, and the main program has the centralized control over it. Okay, the procedure will be solved. So one after the other. So you are saying the procedure call is used to invoke the procedures. Invoke nothing but access. Okay, so execution. After the sequence is processed, the flow of the control proceeds right after the position where the procedure call was made. Okay, so I called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 accordingly. So it will invokes. Okay, procedures or sub procedures programs can be written more easily and with error free.
Clockwise of 1 hour delay.
No. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever anti-clockwise further nimistad. That's your wish, but it will execute and invokes.
Execute.
One,
1, 2.
according to the 1, 2, 3 serially. Procedure.
Last line ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ
Huh?
ಸರ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಈಗ ಕಾಣುತ್ತಾ? Procedures or
Turn towards left, sir.
can be written as more easily and error free.
Yes,
ಈಗ
sir.
ಕಾಣುತ್ತಾ?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's again a programming technique. Okay, so procedural programming. Okay, next. Structured programming. Next. After that. Okay, so unstructured ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ?
Yes, sir.
Unstructured ಆಯ್ತಲ್ವಾ? ಈಗ procedure. So next is structured. Structured programming. So I was explained already. Okay, so I will remind you just. Structured programming. Okay. Here also we give the best example is C. C programming is structured oriented programming. Okay. Structured programming follows following method of coding. Okay, so first one, sequence. Sequence. So what do you mean by sequential? So do you remember this sequential statement? Do you remember this? In the program structure, we have defined the sequential next step. So decision making and then iteration, conditional statement and then iteration. So three structures we have defined programming structure. Programming structure is more editing. Okay, so sequential, conditional, and then iteration. Nephilia?
Yes, sir.
Sequence.
Yes.
Okay, so it executes the statements one by one after the other. Okay, sequence. Sequence, it includes sequence. Input statement,
Yes, sir.
assignment statement, and then finally output statement. Ready? Okay. Nepilva. Sequential. Okay. The next step. Selection or decision making. Selection statement. Selection statement. How many selection statements are there? 5.
5.
If
If else.
else if nested if, and
Switch.
finally
Switch.
multiple selection. We can also call it as a multiple selection. Okay. Next is iteration or looping. So we'll call it as an iteration. Okay. 3. While, do while, and then for. Okay. These are conditional. This is unconditional looping statement or iterative statement. We'll call it, right? Okay. Next. One more is that is subroutines. We'll call it as a subroutines. Okay, it repeats the execution at given time functions. It's one of the chapters you are having in your first PUC. When it comes, I will explain about functions. Okay, so this is structured programming. The best example of structured procedural oriented programming is C programming.
So what is the fourth one?
Subroutines. Subroutines. Functions. We'll call it as a functions.
Okay, sir.
Right? So the structured programming, so it's all about, it follows the method of this following coding. That is,
So your video is stuck, sir.
Yes, sir. You're stuck. ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಸ್ಟಕ್ ಆಗಿದೆ.
sorry for the interruption. So little bit, so network error was there. Okay. Next, modular program. The last concept is modular programming. Okay, this is also a programming technique. The fourth and then last. Modular programming. Okay, so what do you mean by module? I told already. So earlier before this class. So what do you mean by module? The
Subprograms.
Yes, the lengthy programs can be divided into number of subprograms. Okay, so that subprograms will be known as modules, and so that process is known as modularity or modularization. Okay, so why we do this? To make the program very simple. Okay, the complex program can be made, and then so it will be divided into number of subprograms. So it is easy to write the codings and then easy to execute and also easy to rectify the errors. Okay, so we can write the universal programs so without any conflicts. Okay, so by this programming technique, that is what we call modular programming. Okay, the lengthy and complex programs can be divided. Number of subprograms. That is called as a module. This process is known as, this phenomenon or process, whatever you write, is known as modularity or modularization. And this type of programming technique is known as modular programming technique. Okay. And this technique provides grouping of procedures which are common functionality. Common functionality. Okay, so the groups of some modules, so which is having common functions, common characteristics. Okay, so the modular programming, so it groups that, it combines the features of the common functionality of the modules. Okay, next. So advantage of modular programming are, okay, number one, code reusability. Code reusability. Okay, so codes any number of times you can reuse. Next, debugging. So what do you mean by debugging?
Rectifying errors.
Rectifying errors.
First identifying, after that rectifying. Okay, first you will identify the errors, then you will rectify the errors. Debugging is easy. Next, you can build the library. Building the library. So it helps in building the library. And then the fourth one is the portability. So what do you mean by portability? Yesterday also we have discussed. The portability means, what do you mean by portability?
It should run in multiple machines.
Different kind of operating system, different set of devices and machines. Machines nothing but computers, and you can carry the programs from one place to another. Portability.
Yes,
Okay. Code reusability, debugging is easy, and the building library, and then so portability is very easy. So once you have written the program, so you can use it multiple times, right? I will write once a program for adding two numbers. Okay. If you run that program using functions, any number of time you can add the numbers. Instead of writing code that I can access using this modular programming multiple times. Okay, only the writing the codings only once, and I can use that multiple times, any number of times. That is called code reusability. ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಕೋಡ್ ಬರೆದಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸರಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು.
2+2 ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ತಿರ್ಗಾ 4+4 ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ
ಎಷ್ಟು ಯಾವ್ದು ಬೇರೆ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ, ಬೇರೆ ವೇರಿಯೇಬಲ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡಿ. So it will add the only the target is to add the numbers. Any number of times that code can be used, reused. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this finishes off your chapter number 5.
5.
No, 5. It's 5. Okay. Next, chapter number 6. Okay. Do you have any issues with this problem solving techniques? The chapter number 5.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Writing algorithm and then flowchart you need to practice in home. Okay. So ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತರ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ಅದು ನೀವು ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೇನೆ ಅದು ನಿಮ್ಮ
Yes,
ಮೈಂಡ್
sir.
ಸೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರೈಟ್. ಮಾಡಿದೆ. Right. Next, chapter number 6. Right. The next is chapter number 6. What do you mean by those? Object-oriented programming. Okay. Oriented. Programming. And so ಕೆಲವರು ಬರೀತಾರೆ ಸೊ ನೋಡಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಬರೆಯುವಾಗ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ರೈಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಡಬಲ್ ಎಂ ಬರಿಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ ಸೊ ಕೆಲವರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ ಸೊ MING ಬರೆದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾವು ಡೈಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅದಾಗ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಓಕೆ ನಾವು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಕೋಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ. ದಿಸ್ ದ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಸೊ ಯು ಆರ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಕೋಡ್. Okay, so either using machine level language, assembly level language, high level language. So we are using high level language, that is C++. It is an object oriented programming. Okay, right?
Yes, sir.
And then so what do you mean by class? We need to discuss two concepts here. So class and then object. So what do you mean by class and then object? What do you mean by class? In which class you are studying? You all 11th. 11th.
Yes, sir.
I know. ಇಲ್ಲ ರೀ 11th ಬಂದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಇನ್ನು. When did you come to the college? No, you are in home. Right?
Yes, sir.
Object oriented programming. So we need to discuss about two concepts. So one is class, another is object. Okay. So what do you mean by class and then what do you mean by an object? So object in generally. So anything occupies the space is known as object or a matter. You can call it as a matter. Okay, so or in some body, it's occupying some space, right? So what do you mean by class? Right, so this class combines the two concepts, that is data and functions. What do you mean by data? Collection of raw facts and figures. Function nothing but what that element will perform. Right? So what's that?
Yes.
Data will perform tasks. Right? Data, it combines both the features of data and function. So what do you mean by object? Object is a real world element
Here, word,
or entity.
word,
Void. Sorry.
word.
Void, real void element or entity. Okay, so which is having some features, behavior and characteristics, which having some unique features, characteristics, and also you may say function. Right? I'll give simple example. Okay, so let me tell you. So the class universe. I'll take this example. So this is a class universe, and all the planets. We can't write here sun because sun is a star. Right? All the planets. These are the objects. Okay, so I'll say Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. Okay, so etc. I'll write. Okay, so totally we have only 8 planets now, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is what we call a class universe. So it consists of planets. So and so it's a real world element or entity. Okay, so which is present, real world entity and tamra. So it's a present in the some place, I think, but on the earth. Okay, so and we can define that particularly, and then so which having unique characteristics. All the planets have the unique characters. Okay, so because only so we have defined it as an planet, and it may have axis rotation and temperature and then availability of the element, water or some other chemical compound there. So it may differ, but so it all bears the similar characteristics. Okay, and functions. What do you mean? What is functions? So all the planets rotate around the sun. The same function. Okay, this is an object, right? And then so one more example we can give class cricketer. Okay, so when we started seeing cricket, so Sachin was the player, the key player. So in the 90s. Okay, so after that in 2000, so Yuvraj, Dhoni working. Right now in 2010, almost all Kohli and then somebody Suresh Raina then come. So the class cricketer, so they are all belongs to the same unique features, characteristics, and functions. So they play for India. That's it. Okay, so class cricketer is a class, and then so this Dhoni, Raina, and Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, these are all people. So belongs to the class cricketer. So these are all the objects. Okay, and so you may say the class Bollywood actors, right? Shah Rukh Khan, Hrithik Roshan, Salman Khan, Akshay Kumar. Okay, in the 80s, 90s, 70s, Rajesh Khanna, Amitabh Bachchan, you can define like that. Okay, and then so they are all belongs to the unique features and then characteristics. They are for a Bollywood, and then there are cinema actors and actors. You can define that. So Bollywood totally they work for Bollywood, and then they are having unique features, characteristics. So they are worked in different films, but they are all belongs to a particular field called cinema, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that clear? Okay, so the class combines the objects which is having data and functions. Okay, so we call this as an object-oriented programming language. Okay, so object is a real-world element or an entity, so it's having some unique features, characteristics, and functions. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? So ಈ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ PUC ನಲ್ಲೂ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So review of C++ ಮತ್ತೆ so concepts of hoops ಎರಡು ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಮತ್ತೆ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಸರ್ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡೋಣ.
Sure. ಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ ಬರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನೆನಪಿದ್ರೆ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ಕುಸುಮ. Don't worry, right?
ಸರ್
So if you remember, I won't insist to write. Okay, just leave it. Once again, so the things will repeat here. Okay, is that finished? Okay, class object ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಸಾಕು. So then
1 minute sir, copy ಮಾಡಿ.
just introduction ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಷ್ಟೇ. So ಇದನ್ನ ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು so object oriented programming ಅಂತ ಕರೀತೀವಿ. So two things we need to remember, class and then object. Okay, ಇದನ್ನಂತೂ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ PUC ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗೋ ತನಕ ನೀವು ಮರೆಯಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು so ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, right? These are all what we call class and then objects.
Completed sir.
Right. So the hoops concept was introduced in 1980 actually. Hoops concept was introduced in 1980 by the person called Jeremy Stokes. Okay. So before this, the earlier language was used in 1970s. 72 it was invented by, it was designed by Dennis Ritchie, the person called Dennis Ritchie, who introduced C programming. So before that, so we are using so BCPL, basic combined programming language. That are so it's unwanted now. The C, so we need this. Okay, the improved version of the C is C++. That is OOPS, object-oriented programming. So it was introduced by Ernest Rostov. Okay, completely object-oriented programming we call. And then so it based on the concept of class and then object, and then combining the both the feature of data and functions together of any entity belongs to an object. So combining those are called a class, and then so this process is known as object-oriented programming language, that is C++, and even Java. Okay, so the C is upgrade version of BCPL, basic combined programming language. So we'll ignore that. But C++ is improved version of C, and then so Java is improved version of
C++.
C++, but we don't have. So we have intermediate programming language. It's neither a basic, it's neither a upgraded. It's an
Upgraded.
intermediate object-oriented programming language. That is we are having in our syllabus. Okay,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay, and then so I explained two programming techniques. So in the earlier class, in the not nothing but so in the same class, so earlier. Okay, so before this concept. Okay, so the first one is procedural programming, right? We have programming techniques nalle. What do you mean by procedural programming? Kusuma, can you explain this procedural programming? Procedural programming. Kusuma, are you there?
Yes, sir.
And then, so we have also discussed the structured programming. Okay, Impana, so you explain this structured
Yes, sir.
programming to us. Okay, procedural, what do you mean by procedural programming and then structured programming? Okay, one is for procedure programming is for Kusuma, and then structured programming is for Impana. You please explain. Okay, volume is that. So the here also the Mr. Nasir and then Mr. Mokshapada are listening to you. Okay, please just explain. As early in this class only, so as earlier, so in the earlier concepts I explained.
Sir,
Kusuma.
the structured.
After that, after Kusuma, you.
Yes.
Kusuma Rao. Miss Kusuma Rao, what is procedural programming?
Sir, this method allows programmer to combine the returning sequence of produce at single place main program.
That is main program. Whatever the procedure you will write, so that is should go back to the main program. Okay. Any number of procedures you can write, and then it combines the each and individual procedure stepwise together
Yes, sir.
and return to the same place. Procedural programming. So ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಮತ್ತೆ explain ಮಾಡೋದ್ರ ಬದಲು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ. ಓಕೆನಾ? Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Next, so Impana, so what is structured programming?
So structured programming follows method of coding. As we learned sequence selection iteration, we have three, and the other one is subroutines. It means the functions.
Okay. So the sequence in the so includes input, assignment, and then
Assignment and output.
action includes
Select.
if else if nested if and then switch.
Switch.
And then so the looping statement or iteration
While,
statement,
do while, for.
do while and then for, and then finally subroutines, that is functions. Okay, it based on this concept, that is what we call structured programming. Okay, so right now, so we need to go with no, it's the only two. Okay, so right now it is object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. Right, object oriented, I will call it as an OOP, is concept of combining. What to combine? It's a concept of combining data and functions. Okay. That operate on that data. On that data into a single unit called object. Okay, you underline this. Object is, what is object?
Real world entity.
It's a real world.
Is real world entity having
So unique features, characteristics, and functions.
entity having same features and functions. Verbal akara gottaguttalla.
Yes, sir.
Having similar characteristics and functions.
Similar.
Unique. Similar. Unique means so one kind of similar characteristics. Or same characters. Just you write same characteristics and functions. Next, top-down design approach divides the problem into number of sub-problem or sub-program. Then sub-problem may divide it into some more smaller sub-problem. Okay, so this is already we have written, right?
Yes, sir.
In the first programming approach alli bardidivi already. Okay, so top-down design
Yes, sir.
problem. Until
Which is simple.
getting
Simple statement.
simple
Statements.
or solution. Can we say?
Yes, sir.
Solution. Okay, so while bottom top approach is vice versa of
Top-down side.
top-down design. Here, modules integrated together unite or integrated together to find solution. Right? And who follows? Which method? Who follows? ನೆನ್ನೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೆ C++ ಯಾವ್ದು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಟಾಪ್ ಡೌನ್ ಡಿಸೈನ್
Bottom down.
ಅಥವಾ ಬಾಟಮ್ ಟಾಪ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್?
Bottom top.
Bottom top.
Bottom top.
Undoubtedly. Okay. Who follows?
Bottom top. Approach.
Who follows bottom top approach? Next, last the point is that class combines both data and functions as a single object. As single object. This is what we call object-oriented programming. Okay, so is the concept of combining data and functions. Okay, so it operates on the data into a single unit called object. Okay, object is nothing but a real world entity, so which bears same characteristics and functions. Okay, so top down design. So so what happens here?
The problem is divided into
Divided into number of subproblems. Subproblem is again divided into number of smaller subproblems. So until you are getting a statement or a solution to a given problem. Okay. So but in the case of the bottom top approach, what happens? So the approach will be vice versa. It reverses to the top down design. So here the modules are integrated together to bring a solution. Okay, and then so OOPS follows always the bottom top approach, bottom top technique. You can say approach or technique, right? The class combines both the data and function app single object. Okay, so I'll write one diagram for this. Okay, so tomorrow it may be, so it will be finished of this chapter. So simple chapter. Okay. After that, introduction to C++, chapter number 7. Then you are entering to the programming world, C++, from tomorrow onwards. Okay, so next. Let it be class A, class B, class C. Okay, so all the class contains data and functions. Data and functions. Okay, the class combines the object, so having same characteristics and features. This will be called object A. This will be called object B. Object C. This entire thing will be combined together to bring a one class, single class. Okay. The objects which is having same data and functions, similar data and similar behavior, similar characteristics and functions. Right? So this is introduction to the OOPS, concept of OOPS. Tomorrow we'll discuss OOPS characteristics of OOPS. Okay. So there are 7 characteristics of OOPS. One is modularity, data encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, data binding, so message passing. Okay, so there are totally 7 features are there. So we'll discuss one by one. Okay. So is there any doubts in the session?
Yes, sir.
Is that clear, everyone? Okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm done with chapter number 5, right? That is problem solving methodology or problem solving technique. Okay, and you are having complete up to iteration to program structure. Program structure the matte iteration tankanu nimge so idirutte matte so programming analysis matte program approach anta ಹೇಳಿದಿರಲ್ಲ so adu kuda so ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಳಿ ಬರ್ತಾನೆ. Okay, so you will be having to complete syllabus of the 5th chapter, that is problem solving technique from the iteration, right? Okay, so I'll continue tomorrow with the characteristics of OOPS. Okay, so bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.